Hey there, I'm JB, and thanks for listening to another episode of Dueces Wild, the official podcast of DodgersNation.com, sponsored in part by Super Products, your number one sports memorabilia place for all of your sports collection needs. Make sure you visit CollectSuperProducts.com. That's CollectSuperProducts.com. All right, today I'm sitting down with Pablo Jacobo of Rebel Sports Media to discuss the outfield scenario now that Andre Ethier is going to be out for months. And who the heck are the Dodgers going to slot in the number 5 spot in that rotation? Could Sportsnet LA finally be available to everyone? And should Angels outfielder Mike Trout be flipping out about bat flips? Okay, I know it's a Dodgers podcast, but bat flipping is a national issue. All right, maybe not that important, but you get the gist. So with that, let's get started. All right, welcome again, everybody, to Dueces Wild here for DodgersNation.com. I'm your host, JB, and today we're out here. We decided to take the show a little bit outdoors today, get outside on this beautiful Friday midday in Southern California. And here with me is longtime Fred now, who we've been on the air before, and he's joining us here now for the first time on Dueces Wild, is sports writer for Rebel Media, Pablo Jacobo. Pablo, thank you so much for being here, man.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's great, you know, and we're trying to get you on here for a little bit because you're one of my favorite folks to talk sports, because I know that with Pablo, you want to talk shop. He's a good guy to talk shop. He covers Dodgers, he covers Lakers, he covers Galaxy, and he's a big Chivas fan, but we won't hold that against him. So anything you want to, he's looking at me like, man, you had to do that. Right?
Chivas, man, hasta la muerte, you know.
There you go. I see that. I have no problem with the soccer thing, but with the Chivas thing, I'm like, wow, okay, but you know what? Eso es pasión.
It's like you say, pura vida, and that's on you. This Chivas is no te rajes, you know. They're both red, right?
Well, as my other buddy would say, who's a fan of La América, las Chivas ni la birria me gusta.
Oh, yeah. Who is this friend?
I knew you'd like that. I know you'd like that.
Friend him immediately.
Oh, man. So anyways, folks, welcome back here to the Dueces Wild podcast. So typically you're used to us doing a video podcast, and today we decided to do an audio podcast only. We'll probably have some visuals up, some great photos, I'm sure, of Pablo and his family or something we'll throw up there on YouTube. I'm sure your wife will love it. But we're out here actually in the city of Downey, out here at the Downey. Gosh, they should be giving me money for saying that we're at the Downey Promenade, out here. So if you hear some background music and all of that, it's not that Pablo and I are on a date. It's we're just chilling outside and having a good time.
I agree. This is no date whatsoever.
There you go. At some point, we hope to do this podcast, perhaps, where we have the crack of the bat and maybe the roar of some fans or something on site somewhere. That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So we'll work on that. In the meantime, we're only a little over a week away here now as this podcast is recording for opening day in Major League Baseball. No Dodgers home openers until April 12th, but a lot of things happening now. We're at the point now, Pablo, in the preseason, it goes by so fast, where we start to make judgments, fans start to make judgment calls on who should start, who should be benched, who should be sent down. Oh, the bullpen, the pitching staff, what that's looking like. So injuries galore right now is kind of the theme. That happens with every team. But right now, the big name, I think, that's hurting the Dodgers quite a bit, both literally and figuratively, will be Andre Ethier. And for those of you that don't know, Andre Ethier, big injury, out for at least about 3 months, is what it's looking like, maybe even 3 to 4 months or so. So it'll lead you well into June, maybe into July. I believe it was a tibia or something like that.
Broken tibia.
Yeah. And so that's not good news for a lot of Dodger fans. Now, Pablo joked about it because he knows, and anyone that knows me well knows that I've never been a huge Andre Ethier fan, right?
Yes, this is very true. I can concur with that statement, but, it's a huge loss. Simply because the year that Andre Ethier had last season, it was a nice bounce-back year. I think he was close to 300, had 14 home runs, and was arguably one of the best hitters in the Dodgers lineup, which, unfortunately, that did him in the playoffs. Their offense was very slow. The pitching was actually pretty good. Unfortunately, the offense just couldn't help them out scoring some runs, but this is a huge loss, I think. You need that veteran presence, that cushion in that lineup, especially with the young outfield with Jock Peterson, Yasiel Puig, and whoever takes care of, or the platoon that might take care of. But we'll get into that, man. And hopefully someone steps up. There's a lot of options there.
So let's talk about that for a bit. Andre Ethier here. Now, I've never been a huge fan here of Andre Ethier, but let's look at the numbers. If you look at the numbers last year, he had a good season. There's all to be said about, if you look at the facts, in 2015, he had a nice season for the Dodgers. So nice that they thought they perhaps could have used him as trade bait. It's a catch-22 with players like that, right? Because you want them to do well, but if they do well, They're worth more to the market, but they're also now worth more to you. So what do you do, right? And so they were kind of caught in the offseason with this. Do we keep him? Do we trade him? I'm convinced that I'm sure they floated him around a little bit, and probably we're still hoping to do that. That's out the door. So that's another year with Ethier. But a lot of folks were hopeful that he could have the same year that he gave us last year, but with a better producing Jock Peterson, better production from Puig, Yasiel Puig, and some of the others. All of a sudden now you got yourself a nice outfield. That's not the case now with Andre Ethier out for at least about half the season now. Who comes in? Who's your opening day guy, do you think? Or are we platooning here all the way through?
I think general consensus just starts with Carl Crawford, another veteran. Unfortunately, he just can't stay healthy for the life of him. But if he can get it going, it'd be a nice, solid pickup. And especially because they don't have the first bat off, the leadoff bat. That's always been a problem, been an issue, especially. But if Crawford can reclaim that swing that he used to have with the Rays, I think it'd be a solid pickup. Other options that they have is Scott Van Slyke, who's dealing with a hip flexor injury at the moment, but he's overall a very solid hitter, especially against left-handed pitching, But outfielder, it's still a little sketchy, which Crawford isn't any better, but an intriguing prospect would be Trace Thompson. I think he had a pretty solid preseason.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about Trace. Trace Thompson comes up a lot. Tell us a lot about what you're seeing about Trace Thompson here.
He brings that speed. Dave Roberts said he just brings certain intangibles that he doesn't have. And, solid. He was acquired in the summer from the White Sox when they actually acquired Frankie Montas as well in that big trade with the Cincinnati Reds. And he's just intriguing to me. He has a solid bat. He has a high strikeout ratio, which we really don't need with Jock Peterson and Yasiel Puig in the same lineup with him. Yeah. But speed in the outfield, defense, it'd be something that could be welcome for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think that's going to be I think a dark horse would probably be Kike Hernandez.
That's where I'm at. I'm a big Kike Hernandez fan.
Oh, you gotta love the rally banana, man. Yeah. He's solid. Pretty good year. He's very comfortable with the bat. Plays adequate defense, and it's a youthful prospect. He's 24 years old. He has a lot of potential still on him, and I think he's earned a shot at least to compete for that starting left field spot.
What I like about Kike Hernandez is there's something about I like the fact that I like the fact that he's not left-handed, and I like to have that another right-handed bat up there, and I think he would be a nice leadoff hitter. My issue with Ethier now and the slot that he's always played is that he's not a leadoff hitter, and not that he has to be a leadoff hitter, but the Dodgers don't have a leadoff hitter, right? So in an ideal world, who is that guy? They struggle with that. We're hearing Howie Kendrick. We talked about that several weeks ago in the podcast. Is Howie Kendrick going to be? That's not ideally where you want a guy like Howie Kendrick. But Kike Hernandez, I think, is one example of a person who doesn't have a lot of power, a little bit of power once in a while. But he's got speed, he's got spunk, and I don't think he has a problem with sacrificing himself to get on base with a bunt here and there. And
he brings a lot of energy. He keeps that lineup grounded. Like, he keeps them motivated.
And that's where you want to start, right? You want to start the lineup that way.
Exactly. You need that power, that spunk. He can hit, get on base. He's able to steal bases when he wants to, and I think this is where the Trace Thompson factor comes in. They didn't steal much bases last season. That could be an underrated thing that Dave Roberts could apply to this Dodger team. He's got speed, he's got youth. Why not use it and get pitchers uncomfortable? Yeah. Get these people on base, get them moving, get them thinking. Throw them off their game. Kike is another one that could probably do that and be effective in that lineup.
I'm reading a lot in the last couple of weeks now of how, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a good article on, they were looking at the data, and the data that's showing that over the last several years there's a decline in stolen bases and attempted stolen bases in all of Major League Baseball. It's not as popular as it used to be. That's kind of the consensus. Managers don't feel as comfortable sending their guys anymore for a couple of different reasons to steal. They don't think maybe strategically it's the best thing. How do you feel about that? I'm old school. You and I think, are old school when it comes to stuff like this, and I think the gut is to what do you think?
I think most baseball is more concerned about injuries. We've seen a lot of outfielders, just the proper technique that's used, sliding head first with the hands first, and a lot of hand injuries, wrist injuries. Puig was one of them. I think they're just being more cautious, in terms of saying that it's not productive. It's a technique that's been used from back in the days. This is how baseball players got on base, got scored runs, stolen base, gets pitchers uncomfortable, throws them out of their game.
There's a psychology to it,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. You need that. It's something that's underrated nowadays. You got a lot of speed on this team. Peterson, Puig, you got Kike, Crawford can still have some running in there. And it's an underrated factor that needs to be brought back. I think Dave Roberts should definitely imply this into his regimen here for the team.
I made a comment in one of our episodes several weeks back that the leadoff hitter, and almost kind of the stolen base, if you will, the leadoff hitter is becoming like the big man in basketball. Almost obsolete, and it's a change in the tide. You don't need that big center anymore like you used to in the Shaq days. And the Shaq days was not too long ago. And the leadoff hitter now, you almost don't see. I don't know. Is that overrated? Maybe does it matter, or is it more of a National League thing because you end with your pitcher and you start fresh? Whereas with the American League, I feel like maybe it's just a rotation. It's almost like playing beer league softball, and it's just kind of American League people are going to hate me for comparing them. Jay compared the American League to beer league softball. You can tell this is a National League podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Pablo's looking at me like, "What did you just say?" Who cares? You can tweet that, folks. But you know what I mean, though, right? It's interesting that the dynamic that it's not being as appreciated. But you're saying you like to see that still as part of a game.
But then again, not every team has one. That's the difficult part about it. You gotta
adjust your game, your style.
Adjust your game to the roster that you have. And unfortunately, the Dodgers don't really have one. They have to look for one. Howie Kendrick would probably be the most ideal simply because his plate discipline is a solid hitter. But unfortunately, when he gets on base, he's not going to get you that spunk, that energy you need on that base because he's better suited to be one of those cleanup hitters, a solid player that doesn't panic under pressure and he can drive in runs for people. Right. And so at the moment, the Dodgers don't have that leadoff hitter. And this is true for other teams as well. They don't really have that go-to guy. Ideally, you want a quick guy. Yeah. Like D. Gordon, unfortunately, he was out now with the Miami Marlins nowadays. He was excellent. He had a good solid hitting, could steal bases, he was quick, and he was very deceptive. And I think that's the fact that they're missing right now. That
may end up being our Delano de Shields for Pedro Martinez of our time, of letting go D. Gordon, right?
I was a huge fan of Speedy D, Yeah, I love this energy. I love the speed. And before they moved into second base, I thought that was the ideal spot for him. That to kind of bridge over when Corey Seager came up. And that could have been both. We could have had Seager and D. Gordon men in the second base. That would have been awesome to see. Unfortunately, we got to move on from it. And I think that one's going to come back and bite them in the rear end eventually. But we'll see. Corey Seager's up, so it's on him now.
So I'm for right now today, Kike Hernandez going in that right field slot, or left field, I guess. And you're saying?
I agree. Kike is the best guy.
Okay, so moving on now. Pitching, is going to be a weird subject, and it comes up in every episode because now you look at the starting five and you say, where are we? You got Kershaw at the helm. But, got to say about Kershaw. I mean, I don't want to sound redundant because, there's nothing to say that hasn't been said. But this guy just wakes up in spring training and still has a badass spring.
It's Clayton Kershaw, man. He's why he's considered the best pitcher in the game right now.
It's amazing,
He brings it. Brings that energy, brings that focus. No matter if it's a preseason game, he's disappointed when he does it wrong and when he has a bad outing. But it's preseason, man. You want that guy as your leader. Yeah. And he's unquestionably the leader of this franchise and this team. And they're going to go as far as he takes them.
So on that, Dodgers Nation put up a few days ago on their Facebook page. They posed a question to its fans, and it's a question that I've been actually, not even a question, a statement that I've been making for some time now. Are the Dodgers wasting away Kershaw? And I think the underlying theme behind that is, are they wasting away Kershaw? And I think the theme is, are they wasting away Kershaw because they're not – there's this perception – I don't know if it's a misperception or not, that the Dodgers aren't in it to win it right now for some reason. There's fans out there that feel, they got a good team, but the way that ownership is kind of positioning this team is to, let's have a good team today, but let's really position it to have a badass team 3 to 5 years from now. And so there's some fans that say, no, we want to win now, and I'm one of them as well. And I get it. You don't want to mortgage the future either. But at the same time, you got a guy like Clay. You just wasted Zach Greinke for 3 years. In my view, they wasted away Zach Greinke. Some folks are going to say, how did you waste it away? They were in the playoffs. This is L.A. We haven't won the World Series since 1988. Making the playoffs does not impress us here in Southern California. It's about getting to the World. It doesn't impress me. And so, it doesn't impress you if you're a Galaxy fan anymore. Galaxy are champions. If you're the Lakers, you're champions. You're used to winning. It's like Donald Trump says, we're going to win so much that everyone's going to get sick of winning. You love that Donald Trump quote, don't you, Pablo?
Let's not get on that, please.
I had to go Trump at least once here. I'm not voting for Trump, but I had to use that. See, folks woke up right about now in this podcast. But you see what I'm saying. And so I looked at Zach Greinke, and the bitterness I had about Zach Greinke is he's gone. We wasted 3 years. We should have won while we had that dynamic duo, and we didn't. You have Kershaw, 27 years old now, in his prime. In a pitcher's world, you're probably pretty dominant up until about 31, 32 years old. Then you start to see your numbers begin to decline a bit. So I think Dodgers have some time. Should they be positioning themselves to win and win rings in the next 3 to 5 years in Kershaw's prime?
It's a tough question to see, just depending on the camp. Like you said, they wasted away 3 years, but I'm in the other camp. You know, they were competing, and given the fact that they got out of the Frank McCourt era, they were more competitive. They just, unfortunately, they ran into the Cardinals for 2 straight years, and unfortunately, they did Kershaw in the playoffs. Yeah. And that's not entirely his fault. He was solid throughout those outings, just one inning that kind of did them in, and unfortunately, the offense wasn't there. But in terms of wasting Kershaw's prime years, he'd still be in his prime. He just turned 28, I believe, last Saturday. But the Dodgers have acquired some youthful pieces that could be useful this season. I'm not saying they're not going to be competitive. They're kind of fielding the same team from last season. Another year under their belts could be productive for them. I started with some of the pitchers that they had. They brought in Frankie Montas, nice prospect. Julio Urias, Zach Lee still there. Bolsinger, Frias, Alex Wood, Hyunjin Ryu. They're still pretty much within the confines of making a deep run, even with Kershaw leading them. So I don't think it's at all a bad loss for them. But it's just like how fans react. Like you said, it's approaching nearly 30 years without approaching a World Series here in Los Angeles, and it'd be a shame for someone as great as Kershaw not to be playing in that big game or deliver a championship here in Los Angeles. But I think they're going to make a deep run this year, barring any significant injuries like they're going through right now.
You think they go past the first round if they're healthy?
Absolutely. If everyone's healthy, no injuries, everyone's on their game, absolutely. There's no question in my mind that I think they can get out of there.
You mentioned a few pitchers, one of which is Julio Urias. Let's talk about that for a second. The Dodgers need a 5th pitcher. They need a lot more, but right now number 5 is a big deal. And I am a proponent for bringing this kid up. I know a lot of folks don't agree with me. He's 19. You're going to bust his arm. You're going to do all kinds of stuff to it. Who knows what? Okay, fine. But I just feel that a lot of guys deserve a shot. Zach Lee deserves a shot. I get it. So I'm not going to say he deserves a shot. I want to bring him up because I think he can be that good. You can watch his innings count. You can watch his games and not shut him down if you have to at the end of the year, especially if you have a strong Maeda, Kershaw, Cashmere. Cashmere has to come up strong. If not, we're in trouble. But assuming they're doing their job, I think giving this guy a shot, and who knows what could happen and what this kid could bring this year. He showed signs of having some really good stuff, and he's got the poise, Pablo. If you see him up there, he's got that mound presence.
He's got a 90-plus mile curveball, fastball. He's got the tools. He's definitely got the tools to be successful here. But I'm more of a comment. Let him marinate a little bit more in AAA or in the minor leagues, wherever he goes. I think it's better for him for progression. A lot of things is just confidence. You don't want him to get knocked around early on and have him second guess himself later on. But right now, the Dodgers do have depth, but they're going to have to weather this injury storm until McCarthy, Ryu, and Brett Anderson come back. You know, they have depth at the pitching spot. Yeah. There's no question. It's just unfortunate they have to weather this storm of injuries. But Urias is very intriguing.
It really is
intriguing. I mean, he's been compared to the great Fernando Valenzuela.
Here's the thing, exactly. Who do we got right now? If it's not Urias, then who's the guy that comes in the number 5?
Normally, I would say Bolsinger, but he is hurt because he was very, very competent last season, even though he was like one of those emergency kind of guys that came in and did very well. But I think Frias is next in line. We mentioned off the air that in his 11 starts, in 6 of those starts, he was like 5+ innings, which is adequate for a backup fifth starter.
He did a nice job for us last year.
He's got the tools. Got the velocity. Got the nice curve. The curve change, and it could be beneficial because you need a pitcher that can get you long enough and get you that much closer to Kenley Jansen. I mean, Chris Hatcher, I think, is going to have a pretty good bounce back year as well. I mean, he was solid towards the end. There's no question about that. The bullpen's still kind of murky at best. I guess we can both agree on that, but any pitcher that can get you closer to Kenley Jansen, I think, is the best option. I think Frias is probably next in line, at least until Ryu comes back in May. Hopefully he's healthy, no more shoulder concerns arise out of that. But then, McCarthy and Brett Anderson are going to be ways away. Especially, these are serious injuries to come back for, but hopefully at the second half of the season they could be useful and just continue to add to this pitching depth, because I think it's still too early for Urias to take over that fifth spot right now.
Gosh, I'd like to see him now. And maybe it's not the best thing for him, but who cares? I don't pay cable to watch. Heck, I don't even pay. I pay cable and I still don't get to watch the Dodgers, I guess. I shouldn't even complain about that. Speaking of which, though, Sportsnet LA, Time Warner, they just reduced the price like 30% off. I mean, they're slashing spring. It's like a spring sale going on now. All of a sudden over at Sportsnet LA, the latest news this week, they've slashed it 30% off, that they're now going to be offering Sportsnet LA to whoever wants to buy it, pretty much. I mean, maybe you could buy it or and put it up. Maybe Rebel Media wants to broadcast the Dodgers. Put your guy up there on the spot. But what I'm hearing is that, of course, with a 30% discount now, which is very heavily discounted, it brings it way under $5 a person per subscriber, which is originally what DirecTV and some of the others wanted. All of a sudden now, DirecTV, not AT&T now, they're all in one company now, but you're looking at Verizon and Fios and all these guys, it becomes enticing. A deal could get done. Do you have do you get to watch it just from your own home? Do you have Time Warner, or do you have
No, I have Verizon Fios, so Verizon, step up.
So you're stuck with us. Yeah, I'm like DirecTV, same thing here for the Dodgers. But what can be said that hasn't been said already about that? I mean, the importance of having our Dodgers on television for everyone to watch this year when it's Vin Scully's last year.
It's a damn shame. It really is. $8 billion that the Dodgers spent Time Warner spent for the Dodgers to get the rights to the channels, and now 60% of Southern California can't watch them. It's a travesty. It's Vin Scully's last season, and I read an article by Bill Plaschke from Los Angeles Times, and he said, if it was so intent on doing it for Vin Scully, that's why they slashed the prices, why not just advertise it for free? Show the games for Vin Scully for free, and then during that time they can continue to negotiate. Because it's my understanding that 30% cutoff deal that they were, it was just like a 1-year deal, right, like a 1-year thing for Vin Scully. But I think which is unfair. He mentioned it's a pretty good article, and he highlights why it's not the most ideal for them to take, but it needs to get resolved ASAP. It has to. It's nearly a week away from opening day, and it's sad not to see or to listen to Vin Scully and watch the Dodgers go in this tremendous run. It's gonna be bad. It's sorry.
Yeah, no, it is tough. I'm very hopeful that something will get done here in maybe the next several weeks. Might not be ready by opening day, but hopefully very soon, so fans can catch Dodger baseball. But it's good news to see the Time Warner. And look, folks, let's not make him out to be some kind of a prince. Time Warner is losing money, about $100 million a year, and that, to DirecTV, I don't blame them. They played this game right. They looked at Time Warner and they said, look, you guys need us more than we need you, because you have this deal looming over your head where you're losing money every single day that you don't have us. And that's really what happened here. Final thing, I always like to talk about a more broader baseball thing and not just Dodger baseball. But Mike Trout makes some interesting comments in the last week talking about how he is not a fan of the bat flip and disagreed with Bryce Harper, who I actually am not a big fan of, but I agree with Bryce Harper when he said that the sport needs more, forget the word he used, but it needs more spice. It needs more flair is what he said. It needs more flair. It needs more excitement to it, and that's why he likes the bat flip. Mike Trout is more of a traditionalist, more of a purist, disagrees. And so I saw the posts and the comments, and I got into it, I'm sure, with a couple folks about it, because,
really?
Oh, yeah. Surprising.
Jay, really? This is breaking news?
Yeah, exactly, right? Always looking for controversy, as my wife would say. But, I am sure I pissed off some folks online. But, I hate the criticism because then folks like Bryce Harper, myself, we get picked on because we're not respecting the game. And, where's the respect for the game? I don't know. I'm okay with the bat flip. If it's okay in other sports, if it's okay in the NBA, if it's okay to show some excitement, and why not baseball participate in that? To me, this excuse of, well, that's not the way it's been in baseball, well, that doesn't work, especially when World Series numbers are declining and television numbers are declining. Yes, big contracts do exist, folks, in bigger cities like Los Angeles, so I get that. People are watching television. But the sport in general, there's more people gravitating to soccer. More kids, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old, gravitating at a higher rate to other sports. There's nothing wrong with that. But as a baseball commissioner, I think you got to do something, and you got to be okay with this.
let me go on record and say I'm pro bat flip. I think I agree with Bryce Harper. Needs more flair, needs more energy, because baseball is a very long sport.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting in the stands there for nearly 2-3 hours. It could go even longer depending on the innings, but you need that guy, that person to be like you say, Bryce Harper is not. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I love to watch him play.
Oh, amazing player!
The way he swings that bat with such violence, every ball he knocks out the park. I mean, he was NL MVP. I mean, come on, how can you not want to see this guy play? Even here in Los Angeles, we have Yasiel Puig. He plays with a lot of flair. No one said anything when he was being successful. It's just when he kind of tallied off a little bit, everyone started opening their mouths about him. Like, this is what made Yasiel Puig. The wild horse, as Vince Scully donned him. It's exciting. Everyone says, oh, he doesn't throw out the guy on second base. Like, who cares? I want to see him launch that ball away to third base, throw someone out. Everyone's cheering it. Right. It's just a different dynamic in terms for new baseball fans. You know, like I said, I'd be lying if I say I was a baseball purist, because I wasn't. I got into baseball during the controversy with Sammy Sosa, with Mark McGwire when they go into that home run history. I know it was steroid induced, but you're not going to sit here and lie and say you weren't. It was not catching your eye, because you'd be lying. Everyone loves to see those jacks that they were throwing at 400, 500 feet out of the stadium. This is what we want. You know, in football, it's exciting, but then they're taking away celebrations. It's nonsense. Basketball, you can posterize someone what you want someone to stay quiet. It's unacceptable. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. And in terms of Mike Trout's comments, that's fine. There's no wrong. Why can't we have both in here in the game? You tie into both cultures, the old school fans, the get off my lawn type of fans, and the new school fans that want to be entertained.
One of my buddies said it best the other day. He said, you know, baseball players, and I know I'm going to piss off a lot of folks when I say this, but that should just be the title of my show, Pissing Off by Jason. No. And he said it best. He said, baseball players are some of the most sensitive athletes in the world. You're shaking your head yes. You agree?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like, this is the only sport that I know that has a freaking Bible of unwritten rules. If it was such a big travesty, then write them in as real rules. And this nonsense about unwritten rules that you can't bat for. Come on, stop it.
Yeah, it's too much, and that's so. Anyways, you can go on for hours and hours on end about, you know, culture and the differences that it's made, you know, the Jose Bautistas of the world. How many times? And folks, if you don't think MLB doesn't love the bat flip, then count how many times, how many GIFs, how many clips you've seen, right, and retweets of Jose Bautista's famous 2015 playoff bat flip. That was an amazing marketing moment. And folks, you need to remember, this is a business. If there's no dinero, there's no TV, there's no baseball. Right? I mean, that's the way it works.
Absolutely. I mean, look at just the setting, the environment that he was in. This was playoff baseball at its best. Knocked in a game-winning home run. How can you not flip the bat? It's honest. It was awesome. It's one of those moments that you'll always remember for that specific moment. And I think baseball fans, new ones, should just get in line.
And Puig's had those moments. Manny Ramirez had those moments, both with Boston and L.A. You can go on and on. David Ortiz does it all the time. Guys like Bryce Harper, you hate him. I'm going to boo the heck out of him when I'm at Dodger Stadium, but he's great for the game. Absolutely. So is Puig. So is a lot of these guys. And I know a lot of folks don't agree with me, but you do have to change. That's just one of the reasons why I admire the NHL. The NHL, believe it or not, they have no problem in making rule changes year after year after year. They're always constantly innovating. They're not the most popular of the big four, but they're always innovating to make it more exciting. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, we're not going to get into soccer talk because this is Dodgers Nation, so you want to talk about purists that is at its ultimate. It's FIFA, right? I mean, they're resistant to any change, but you don't need to touch.
They have flair, but soccer has flair in it. You know, the Ronaldos, the Messis, the Neymars, you've seen them play. They play with such pizzazz that it's entertaining. It's beautiful how they play the game. I mean, I know a lot of old school baseball purists disagree with the bat flip or anything, but at the same time, they're okay with the pitcher retaliating and throwing a 90-mile-an-hour behind someone's skull.
Yeah, right.
So what's the controversy? Is that acceptable? Is that in the rules as well? Yeah. I mean, come on, you gotta get over it. Yeah. It's entertainment. Sports is entertainment. Right. That's what we want, and I think people need to get on board with it.
I'm going to leave it at that. Pablo, thank you so much. Pablo Jacobo, everybody, from a sports writer here with Rebel Media Group. Tell us a little bit about how they can follow you, how they can follow Rebel Media, and if they go on Rebel Media, what are they going to find?
Rebel Media, we touch on all the sports, specific emphasis on LA sports. You can find me at P. Jacobo Sports. Letter P is in Paul, my last name Jacobo. Sports. Tweet at me. I respond back. I'm like, Jay, we don't hold our tongues or Twitter fingers, as Drake says. But no, just give us a call, give us a shout out, and latest and greatest content in Los Angeles sports. We're there for you guys.
There you go, everybody. So I'm JB, your host here on Deuces Wild podcast on DodgersNation.com. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is probably also one of the places you're going to be listening to this podcast as well. And very soon, I'm sure we'll also be in some other avenues as well. You can follow us on Facebook, catch us there as well, or on Twitter. You want to follow Dodgers Nation. And again, follow me at JB Nation. That's JAYB Nation on Twitter. And if you have any comments or questions or things you want us to talk about in the next episode or other episodes in the future, that's what we're here for. So we'll catch you later. Thanks, Pablo, once again. Thank you.
Appreciate the invitation, man.
See you, everybody.